This is the 50 to 300 millimeter 4.5 to 6.3 by Tamron. Let's hop in and talk about the things that I like and dislike about it. So the very first thing that I realized whenever I was using this lens is that you can get so close to a subject, and the minimal focus and distance at 50 millimeters is 8.7 inches, which is super close. Whenever you get out to the 300 millimeters, it's about 35 inches, which at 300 millimeters is very close as well. And this, in my opinion, opens the doors for some really unique portrait opportunities because you get so much compression from your images due to the 300 millimeters that you can reach to. Now, I am a portrait photographer, but I wanted to try my hand at a little wildlife. So here's a few images that I took while using this. And I was riding on a boat for the most of these, and it did capture the eyes of the birds pretty well using the Sony with the latest firmware. And yeah, it was kind of fun. It was unique for me because it's not something I would typically do, but having a lens like this, I felt like, why not? Shooting at 300 millimeters was actually really tough for me because it actually flattens your subject so much because of all the compression that you lose a lot of the features of the subject. Here's an image at 28 millimeters, here's one at 50, and then here's one at 300. You can see how much flatter our subject actually gets from this due to the compression. Now, saying that, you can also get some really unique, interesting silhouettes or different style of photography in general by using something like this. And I know 6.3 sounds a bit slow at 300 millimeters, but honestly the fall off and the blur that you get leading up to the subjects, it looks like you're shooting something a lot faster than 6.3. And obviously whenever your lens is zoomed out that far, it's hard to get things in focus. So if you were shooting at a 2.8, it would look a lot different, but it'd be a lot harder to catch focus. So that's just a peculiarity of it, I guess you would say. I've never shot anything this long. The longest I've ever shot was 200, and shooting at 300, it was really fun to try out. Not something that I would typically use ever, but it was really interesting to see how something like this would work, and it pushes you to kind of get out of your comfort zone. So that was really fun for me. So it seems like this building is right next to me, when in reality, it's actually pretty far. With 50 millimeters is what you see now. A great thing about this lens is you can pick it up at Pixel Connection. Thank you guys so much for having me do this video with this lens. 50 to 300 is a pretty wide range, as you can tell. Make sure you hop over to Pixel Connection to get your lens today. This lens comes with a USB-C port on the side so you can keep it up to date for the firmware. It also comes with a function button, which you can choose to create any function on your camera just about. And it also has a lens lock so it doesn't zoom out, which is really nice as well. I do hate that it doesn't have an autofocus manual focus button on the actual lens itself because the focus ring is very smooth. It's not as tight as some are, but it is very, very smooth. So they did a really good job on that. So whenever you shake the lens, just like on the Fujifilm 18mm 1.4, you can hear the linear focus and motor inside of it because it's turned off, and as soon as you stick it on the camera, it turns on and allows that linear motor to kick on and start working, so you can get some easier ways to shoot your subject so it's not as shaky. Especially at 300 millimeters, I realized that it's very, very hard to track a subject. A lot of times I found myself zooming out to 50 millimeters to find it and then zooming back into 300 quickly to get back to that subject because that is a long distance. So kudos to them for actually putting in the linear motor for this lens. This lens is also moisture resistant. It does have a gasket around the back. I'm not sure how well it works. I didn't put it through those paces because this is not my lens, unfortunately. I have to send this back. And yeah, I'm assuming that it would do all right in a pinch, but I never really trust any kind of weather sealing unless I'm just in an absolute crunch and have to have something done, or if I'm using a camera that I just don't care that much about. This lens actually has a fluorine coating on the front, so it doesn't capture fingerprints as much as it typically would on a normal piece of glass, which is very handy, especially if you touch your lenses a lot with your nasty fingers. So that's an interesting thing that they decided to put into this lens. This lens comes in at 1.5 pounds, which, considering how large it is, that's not really heavy. It does feel a bit cheaper than some of the premium glass that I've used, but you get what you pay for. A 4.5 to 6.3 variable aperture over 50 to 300, and the build it's decent. It's not the best, I will tell you that. Overall, shooting this lens was pretty fun. I felt like a different type of photographer while I had it, and I tried to use it in just a few days to the best of my ability. Not my type of photography, but it was very fun to use. So I hope this little review helped you decide whether or not this is a lens for you. And until next time, peace.